Good morning, Tom. I'm going to do a quick video, hopefully, that will deliver what it is you're wanting. Some fast left-hand finger action. I'll show you from various angles. You can slow it down and analyze it as needed. And then I'm going to explain to you some of the mechanics and some of the invisible magic that makes it possible. So you can kind of play around with that in your mind, which you already understand so much of it from the guitar. And then I want to tell you about my tetrachord exercises, and I have a video on YouTube about tetrachords, but I'll just mention it to you. If there's time, I'll show you a little spiccato as well. So, you know, when I'm trying out strings or violins, I like to see how fast of a response I can get. And that's what you were seeing in that video. First, I just do this finger pattern because it's a super fast, super easy finger pattern, and it sounds like a half of a major scale. When you do it on each string, it sounds like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, mi, do, re, mi, fa, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Listen. And that's just me doing this finger pattern. And if I did it really fast, then it shows me how well the violin or the string is responding. Let me show you that finger action from various angles. And what I'm listening for is for my pinky. Usually when you do that exercise, the pinky gets muddled or doesn't speak clearly because he's shorter, he's smaller, and he's at the far end of the hand. So unless you're doing everything properly, pinky won't articulate. So now you can hear him kind of stomping on the fingerboard. A little exercise, Tom, that you could do to develop that left hand finger articulation. You'd probably do it on guitar. And you should be able to hear the pitches, and that is ensuring that you have good left hand articulation. I'll show you on another string. This simple exercise is beneficial because it teaches your left hand to do something really fast while your right hand does something really slow and controlled. Show the E string. Okay, so that's just using a tetrachord or a finger pattern, a 4-note finger pattern. I could do this finger pattern, I could do this one, I could do this one, whatever you choose. It's just this one sounds the most pleasing because it's the first part of a major scale. But if I wanted to do this tetrachord, I could. It sounds like the first part of a minor scale. Etc. Let me just show you this one really quick because I'm a nerd. That one's harder to get articulation on the pinky. You know why? Because a half step is not heard as clearly as a whole step. And so the 3 and 4, they get smeared a little bit. I'm working really hard to try to make 3 and 4 sound articulate. As opposed to this. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about tetrachords. Now, let me show you if I were to play across all 4 strings, I could stay in this tetrachord, but then it would sound like gibberish, like you're complaining about when violinists just blurt out a whole bunch of notes and it doesn't have any regard for the scale, I think is what you said. I can't even do it. It's just, I can't even force myself to do it. I was trying to play this tetrachord, and I'm just used to doing G major, so that's what I'm going to do now. Watch my bow speed very carefully. Man, I'm sloppy today. There we go. So the bow speed is giving very careful measurements. I'm giving about 1/4 of my bow for each string. So each string has enough. Now, let's talk about bow speed and bow weight. So that's half the equation. This is only half of what you've got to learn to do to be able to play fast, clearly heard notes. The bow has to pick the right sounding point. You got to find the magic, what you'd call a sweet spot. You've got to utilize the exact right bow weight and the exact right bow speed. So write those 3 things down. It's like the holy trinity of violin tone: bow weight, bow speed, and bow placement. That means what sounding point you choose. And the sounding point depends on the other 2. Actually, they all depend on each other. If you change one part of the pie, the rest of the pie has to change. Now, let me not talk too much. Let me show you what you can do with spiccato, also using tetrachords. Okay, so you already know how to make your Vingo bow bounce. So now, I'd like you to try to do, or I'd like you to, but what you could try exploring is applying the left hand. Again, I'm just doing this tetrachord. Pick a string, any string. You'll do it on all 4 strings. And you do 4 bounces on every note. D, 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 E, F sharp, G, E, A, G, F sharp. And then you could do 3 reps, but keep the bounce the same. We were going ba 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 ba. And then keeping the bounce the same, ba 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 ba. Do 2 reps. And then 1 rep. Okay, a little factoid that will help you with your spiccato is that when you're closer to the frog, the spiccato is slower, and it can have a little bit longer contact with the string, which makes it a more long note, less pecky, more brushed. Sh 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 sh, like this. We call that a brush spiccato, as opposed to closer to the tip. The spiccato is very fast, but you can't do long notes. It's very short and pecky. Okay, something just happened. I broke from spiccato into sautille. That's a word you're gonna wanna know because you love that fast bouncy thing. Spiccato has a speed limit. When you break that speed limit, it's like breaking the sound barrier. You break from spiccato into sautille. Sautille happens at a specific place in your bow. It's different for every bow, but it tends to be either just above the middle or just below the middle. And it depends on your height, your geometry, how you hold the violin, everything. And sautille is no longer a bounced stroke, but you'd never know it. It sounds very bounced, but what's happening is the bow is bouncing, the stick is bouncing, but the hair stays on the string. And when the stick bounces downwards, it bites the string, which makes it sound like it's striking the string from the air, but it's not. So watch. Now, that was a poor example, but that's an advanced spiccato. I would really urge you to learn to control a regular spiccato before you try sautille. And you'll do that by doing tetrachords, 4 reps, 3 reps, 2 reps, 1 rep. Now, as you probably already know, 3 reps is problematic because it doesn't share the same common denominator as 4 and 2 and 1. So it's hard to do with metronome and it's just different. But it's an important thing to do. So you could leave 3 reps out once in a while, like half the time, leave out 3 reps. Okay, let's put it this way. When you're practicing with metronome, leave 3 reps out, okay? Because then, let me show you, you can do, with a metronome, here's 100. Okay, so let me put that where you can see it. I'll try to put it in the rear corner here, and then you can still see me. So if I did the tetrachord stuff with the metronome, here's 2 reps, here's 1 rep, it works very nicely without the 3s. If you add the 3s, well, I'll let you try it yourself and you'll discover why 3s become problematic. But here's why 3 reps is very, very important for you to do to develop your spiccato. And that's because the strong beat alternates between down, up, down, up. Watch, I'll do a slow 3. Down, up, down, and that just helps to develop a very balanced, very nicely controlled spiccato. Another thing that helps to develop a very nicely controlled spiccato is to start it up bow. So if you're doing my tetrachord exercise, instead of always starting down, up, down, up, down, start up, down, up, like this. I'll do 3s. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. I'll do it again. Now I'll do 2s. And 1. Okay, and let me just give you a side view of my bow arm so you can kind of study the geometry. It's all elbow. I am not moving. That's what the mistake beginners make is they try to spiccato from their shoulder and they're moving their humerus bone through the air. You have to learn to bypass that and do elbow, wrist, and fingers. And if you need to, practice on open strings and hold your bicep. To help you learn to isolate the elbow. Let me just show you another pattern instead of just always playing scales. Let me show you, actually I'm gonna digress even more. Let me show you what happens if I use too little bow weight. Here's just right bow weight. Here's what happens if I use too much bow weight. Here's what happens if I use too much bow speed. Well, I run out of bow. Listen to the difference between playing too close to the bridge. Sounds like distortion, because it is. Here's what happens when I play too far from the bridge. I have no articulation, it's gutless. It's gutless. So you dial it in, find the exact right spot for the speed you want to play. Okay, I'm getting worse. Okay, on that note, I think I should stop. I was going to show you another pattern. Instead of just doing scales, you could do broken thirds. You can do all kinds of different patterns, but broken thirds is one of the most common. Okay, let me try that again. Another common pattern would be like up 5 notes, down 3. I never counted it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something like that. Okay, well, I've gone on for long enough. I hope this gave you something that you wanted and needed. See you next time.